Grab a seat.
Cheers.
As I was saying, Sumbly, very interesting application. I don't know if anybody's no, you haven't had a chance to play with it, and if anybody uses it here. Summarizing, you just saw the need to summarize web pages on a mobile. You wrote this, you put it up on the App Store, and you were approached by investors or venture capitalists, weren't you? Do you want to tell us about that?
Right, so it was last year I was revising for my history mock GCSE, and I was using, I'm 16 by the way, I was 15 at the time, and I was using the search engines, Google and Bing, and the problem is the process is quite inefficient because you click in and out of a lot of search results before you find what you're looking for. And so I was looking for a way for people to preview content. And obviously at the moment they offer something called an instant preview, which is an image. And you can go a step further and potentially provide a textual-based summary. And so after the exams, I went about spending 2 months researching the field of summarization and came up with an application called Trimit, as you'd said. And I'd released that in July of last year. And about a month after the launch, TechCrunch wrote about it, and I was featured in about 50 countries in Apple's new and noteworthy list where they curate the best applications of the week. And I think as a result of that, someone called Selena Chow, who runs the Mr. Li Ka-shing's fund, had read about the TechCrunch article, seen it featured, and had also seen the potential in the technology going forward, and so they approached me then.
So that's Li Ka-shing, the Chinese billionaire, shipping and everything magnate.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
the Hong
so
Kong billionaire.
they approached. So did they know at the time that you were perhaps younger than the average entrepreneur?
I'm not, as far as I'm aware, I hadn't publicly used my name or my age in any of kind of the write-ups in the blogs prior to that. I think Horizons Ventures, the actual name of the fund, they focus a lot on defensible technology, specifically in artificial intelligence. And so if you look at Sumbly's technology, we're quite a defensible tech in terms of what we're doing going forward. And at the same time, I think they see potential in real technology as opposed to kind of social networks and things that were maybe a few years ago on the trend, especially in the information overload field, kind of trying to solve a lot of data, how you consume that.
So you raised money. How much did you raise?
So last November, it was $300,000 as a seed. As a seed. So approximately £200,000.
Right. And are you, does Sumbly now, is it employing people, or are you coding away all hours of day and night?
I don't, at the moment, I'm not focusing myself on the code. It's a lot more on the consumer-facing product and things we're working on there. There's probably about 10 to 15 people now who are involved in the company, kind of both either contractually or employed. And what we're really trying to do is just push the field of summarization as far as possible and kind of see the limit where an extraction technology, which is what it's been traditionally, so you're still having to play with content that a human, someone who's written the article, for example, the author has written, and then trying to push that as far as possible to abstraction, where the computer would use natural language generation or come up with new content to summarize the old content. So we're trying to really push that boundary. And so over the next few years, that's what my passion is. It's really in the tech itself.
Isn't there a risk of that getting kind of complex? And a lot of people talk about the importance of making mobile apps actually really simple, not very many words there, all icon-based and angry birds and all this nonsense.
I mean, I wish I could show you what we're working on, because what we're trying to do is take our very complex and functional technology, the summarization algorithm, and apply it to a really, really beautiful user interface, animations and gestures, and very consumer-oriented. And I think if you can combine both great functionality with a really great, UI and design, and then the fact that it's on mobile, which I think is the inherent fit for summarization, because the screen real estate is a lot less, and it's slower cellular data connection, so people want to just consume a lot more content, but at the same time in a very digestible, like bite-sized format. And so that's what we're really focusing on now. It's more trying to take our technology and bring it to the consumer audience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been following your tweets the last week or so, and I see you as being an absolute classic product passion guy. Just absolutely passionate about user experience and all this kind of stuff. And it's interesting as well that you are not coding anymore. You step back from that.
I think it's important to have the coding experience, and so I'd been coding since I was 12, like teaching myself C and Objective-C. So I had a technical background, but I think if you can combine the technical expertise or knowing what's possible, and then you can also bring what I think is really important anyway if you're kind of a consumer-facing company, which is that UI, the branding, and the product design, and you can combine the two together, I think that's when you see companies kind of grow quite fast.
I completely with you. I mean, I went through exactly the same thing. I stopped coding almost as soon as I hit my 40th birthday.
Right.
It was more that I wasn't allowed to code anymore.
Right.
You're going to be, what I think is very exciting for all of us here, I was probably as gratified as you were to see 50% of the audience are iPhone users, so 50% of the audience are potential customers. We're all using iPhone. What iPhone do you have right now?
I have the 4S.
The 4S.
White. Yeah.
A white 4S.
White 4S.
When I will be way too old to code and will be, you know, sort of doddering around with my phone, I don't know, 15, 20 years time, you will be in your entrepreneurial prime and will probably be up to, you know, iOS release 8, release 9.
Yeah, I mean...
What's going to be in it?
I mean, I think what's actually happening is the kind of native applications, the ecosystem, so like the App Store and the Android App Store, whatever it's called now, it's getting quite saturated. And so I think Apple's passed the 500,000 mark, Android's definitely 350,000, 400,000, it could be even more. And the problem is it's getting harder and harder for app developers to differentiate themselves and kind of stand up from the crowd. And so in 10 years' time or so, I wonder if there will be less focus on native applications that have to be downloaded through a store. And it'll be more about HTML5 and kind of these native web apps that can actually function perfectly fine in the browser. And so there's no need to download like the BBC News app, because you could go to bbcnews.co.uk or whatever, and you would have a beautiful kind of functioning website that's been optimized for the device. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go through the App Store to download that native version. But
you're still envisaging devices with screens and real estate. I mean, the Google augmented reality sunglasses are quite interesting.
So, okay, if you're talking like 20, 30, 40 years down the track, I still think we'll have, I mean, there will still be devices with screens. I think what will be very interesting to watch is AI and the progression of artificial intelligence becoming more and more and more engaged with kind of products you use. You know, like what would Facebook be able to do with data that if you've been on Facebook for 30 years, what could they do? Could they even almost look at patterns in behavior that you've had in the way you share your statuses and what you're sharing? And if you use like semantic evaluation of the content, could they end up being able to predict you better than what you can yourself, because they're looking at everything you've done in your life, or shared at least, which is quite a lot if they go through your photos and videos and status updates, and they can look at that from kind of a pragmatic machine.
Of course,
view.
the interesting and quite scary aspect of that is that the Facebooks of 10 or 20 years' time will be crawling the data they are gathering on us all today.
Exactly.
This video, I mean, I think we're running 4 video feeds and 2 audio feeds out of this, and that's all going to go to TED, and it will be indexed. So, you know, should we be afraid of robots from the future?
Potentially. It depends what the information, if it's for good cause, if it's going to help, you know, medication and medicine and kind of saving your life, and even, you know, in terms of data going forward, if we can learn new things scientifically, I think it's great. As long as that power and information isn't abused, and I think it'll be of a good benefit going forward.
Well, Nick, it's likely to be people like you making those decisions in 20 years' time.
I think,
you will be designing and running the robots from the future. So no pressure, kid.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Finally, what advice would you give to the parents of computer-obsessed 15-year-olds who say, oh, I saw that video of Nick, I want to do that, I want to, you know, leave school and go and write apps, and I'm going to be the next Bill Gates or next Steve Jobs or next Nick Deleuze?
I think I mean, first off, I think kind of the obsessed, I think it's important to keep quite balanced anyway. Like, so I'd hope that the child wasn't totally obsessed to the point where he wasn't doing anything else, because actually if you balance your life with kind of sport and social and even, you know, academics, homework and things, it does give you a better view and perspective on what you're doing from a technology perspective. And then secondly, I think the parents should definitely foster and help encourage the student or the child, because if they really do have that kind of passion and interest, then I think they will probably end up getting there because they really do have that belief and passion for the technology. So I wouldn't stunt that potential. I really would try and allow the child to go as far as possible. And obviously, if he gets offered some funding or something like that, then even dropping out of school, I don't think would be too bad. It's kind of weighing up the risk.
Yeah. Nick, there are parents out there who are so grateful to have that on video.
Yeah, exactly.
They too can edit and can play that to their kids.
Exactly.
That's absolutely tremendous. So you will be going to university?
I think so, yeah, I'd like to. That's my goal. Actually do philosophy and politics, not necessarily in technology, to kind of keep that balance. That's what I have an interest in as well. So.
Very wise. That sounds an excellent broad grounding to be responsible with those robots from the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Delosio. Thank you so much.